not be convening for a conference with legal counsel on this agenda as there's no need for that.
Okay, we will go into closed session.
I watched it for the first time. It's interesting. Television, huh? It was, I don't know what Stella was in there, and Kenny Whipple. And I don't know
There was a
what.
video of it.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
In order, Jeff, we can do some salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we pray this day for thy blessing, guide us in our conduct toward ourselves and others, that we be humble and merit, so we not adjourn in anger. May our meeting be informative and productive. In the name we pray. Amen. Announcement of items discussed in closed session, Mr. Irving.
Mr. Chairman, the board met in closed session for a conference with labor negotiator Rick Haig, including the following bargaining units: Lassen County Peace Officers Supervisors Association and Lassen County Peace Officers Management Association. There was no reportable action.
Thank you, Richard. Agenda approval, additions and regulations, weekends and staff. This is the board. I want you to approve the agenda as is.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda as is.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Public comment. I have a Melanie. You have.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. Melody Brawley, Director of Health and Social Services. I respectfully request that you adjourn this morning, and then the environmental health employees who were victims of the mass shooting in San Bernardino County last week. And then our environmental health and public health staff will be joining other environmental and public health departments all around the country in honoring the victims beginning at 10:45 tomorrow morning, December 9th, in the Aspen Room of the Public Health Department. We're going to have a brief video about how to respond in the event of a mass shooting, and then that will be followed at 11 o'clock by a moment of silence. And anyone who'd like to participate is welcome.
We will do that now. We're doing the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else wish to address the board? Mr. Spencer.
Heidi Spencer, CountyHealth.com. This board budgeted $142,000 to re-roof the Westwood Library over 3 years ago. Instead, the over $84,000 was spent on the Beaver Library. We're only assuming that you put a gold-plated roof on the Beaver Library. Nothing was budgeted for the Beaver Library, and Supervisor Alba has said nothing. Supervisor Pyle has said nothing and done nothing about the Westwood Library not getting a new roof. Public Works got $37,000 of the roofing money. According to, we have all the invoices, the warrants. And Public Works spent $37,000 of the Westwood Library money for an addition, and we haven't been able to find out where this addition was. There's a $6,000 bathroom on a separate, no location, but Public Works spent that money also. In total, it was $142,000 over a 3-year period that you budgeted roof for Westwood Library. Since this discovery, can we help us fund other misappropriate spending? Gentlemen, this isn't a private club, even though your actions clearly indicate that you think it is. These unethical practices are clearly and obviously intentional. And since we discovered the Westwood Library, we've discovered 13 other misappropriated spending. And you may not know about it. You may not even care, but I think you do. But the spending was authorized by your CAO. The direction, misdirection of these funds were done by your CAO with sometimes supervision intervention. And we just want to make it public.
Well, if you make it public and get back straight to you, roof for the Westwood Library, the money is appropriated, the people it is in process to go on. I have talked to Peter about it. Right now, they do not want to tear the roof off when you got bad weather. When they're coming on, they're better off to keep the roof when the weather permits to put the new roof on. They're not going to tear it off right now.
We started talking to Larry about the roof in July.
So
So that excuse isn't going to
The Westwood
fly.
Library roof is going to be replaced. The money is there. It's in the process. The staff's ready to do it. We're waiting for an appropriate time to do it. Anybody else wish to address the board? Seeing none, we'll move on. Unagendized reports by board members. Mr. Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to give a brief report. I had the opportunity to attend last week the CSAC conference in Monterey, representing the county. The board of directors had its meeting there too, which basically sets policy for the county's lobbying and other efforts throughout the year. The tribal lands being the tribes acquiring land and converting it to tribal fee status, basically bringing it into their sovereign holdings, seems to be a very large issue throughout the state. Not a big issue here locally, but a lot of the counties are experiencing problems. There's legislation being introduced now. Apparently in 2009, the Supreme Court held a ruling or issued a ruling that basically said only the tribes that existed in 1934 or before would have the sovereign nation status in terms of acquiring new property. So any tribes that get recognized after 1934 would not be treated the same as those. And so they're trying to get Congress to change the definition, because the Secretary of the Interior is the one that issues basically the patent on the lands when they get transferred. So that has been a kind of one of the top issues that the Board of Directors meeting in September dominated that agenda, and it still was very much alive at the Monterey meeting. The Government Finance and Operations Committee is always a good one that I like to attend, because you kind of learn what's going to be the projected financial situation. Richard was able to be a part of that meeting, but it was interesting to listen to the various speakers on various elements of where state finances are going and how that's going to affect local finances. They're projecting that by June 30th of 2016 there will be $11.9 billion in this rainy day fund, which is to help kind of insulate in case of a future downturn of the economy in terms of the state budget and having the problems like we saw after 2008 with the recession that hit. According to the Legislative Analyst's Office, the LAO, there's enough money in this fund to basically allow the state about 2.5 years worth of grace period to take care of whatever sort of retraction and funding that would be available. A lot of it is tied to the income tax, which is tied to Silicon Valley and the wealth that's there, and the stock market. So depending upon how the stock market behaves will determine whether or not there will be a future triggered recession. Just there in San Jose alone, on our way back, we stopped and visited some friends and found that all the little small houses that everybody lives in down there in the old part of town are all worth $1 million each. That's the entry level. And Apple employees and others are going in and buying the house across the street for $1.8 million cash. I mean, so it's crazy down there in terms of what's happening with housing and just the amount of money that's available. And that's all going to tie back in. According to the LAO, right now we're on the longest basically sustained economic growth period that they've been able to record. So it's not a question of if there'll be a downturn, it's when. They're kind of projecting that it's going to probably happen in 2017. So that's what they're trying to prepare for with state finances, is in terms of handling that future inevitability. So I think for the board's benefit and working with county administration, we need to keep in mind how that can play out in terms of the services that we would have available. The other thing I just want to point out, and I think it would be good, Richard, if we can be talking to both Julie and to Larry about having staff attend. There were a lot of breakout sessions dealing with the clerks of the board, the state association. They meet at the same time as CSAC meets. And I think it would be really beneficial, having talked to a number of the clerks in other counties and stuff, and just, you know, what they're focusing on as issues and stuff. I think both Susan and Crystal and others in the clerk's office would benefit greatly by having that interaction in the future. So at the next conference, you know, if we plan in the budget and stuff, I think at least one or both, or Julie, whoever they would determine would be most appropriate to attend. And it was interesting, the County Engineer Association of California, which meets also with it, was a big thing when Bill McIntosh was the Public Works Road Commissioner here in Lassen County, was one of the founders of a lot of their meetings and their activities. You know, but everybody was saying, well, where's your guy? And so I think, you know, we need to talk with Larry about either himself or somebody from his department attending those meetings, because we sat in on the Transportation, Land Use, and Housing Committee. You know, they're talking about the new federal transportation law that is basically passed both houses of Congress and is sitting on President Obama's desk right now. You know, it's a 6-year package. It contains a lot of money and a lot of requirements and stuff. And that was the subject of a lot of the discussions at these meetings. And when we're not at the table to tune into that, that's where we lose out. So I think as time goes on, Richard, I think it's really important that we have appropriate staff there attending. And I know you attended some of those meetings trying to cover as well. So it was a very valuable conference, and I appreciate the opportunity to go and represent the board. And also, we got back in time Saturday. I have to say, the Uptown Christmas celebration, kicking off the holiday season, Chamber of Commerce puts on there in front of the Elks Hall, lighting of the Christmas tree and setting off the fireworks. We had over 4,000 people, I think, in the Uptown neighborhoods. It took a good 45 minutes for the cars to, I've never seen North Street so busy, but a lot of people uptown. Probably the best show today. They moved the fireworks off the top of the Elks Hall and down on the front lawn, and the way they set it off and the smoke, and I mean, it was pretty cool. And I tell you, a lot of people, you know, like to rag about, you know, small hit towns and stuff, but a lot of people who were there, especially new to our community, just talk about just how cool small communities are. And I think we should value the opportunity we have to live in the areas that we do, especially after getting back from the urban Bay Area. It was with this, I was glad to be home. But I thought that was just, and I think the Chamber of Commerce should be commended, and all the others, HUSA, City of Susanville, all the folks who put together that program. So that was my week.
Thank you, Jim. Jeff, I just want.
I want to, before Jeff, I want to wish Jeff happy birthday. He's almost an old guy now.
Yeah, that's better than the alternative.
I went uptown Saturday to the Christmas Fest, and it was just great. The community just came together for that. Like I said, it's pretty how they, you could see the cannons where they shoot the fireworks off, and it was pretty sick.
Yeah, they should have done that before. That was the way to do it.
The real Mrs. and Mr. Claus was walking around on the street. My daughter thought that was pretty slick. She's still on the nice list. It's hard to believe.
Good. Tom.
We had a community meeting in Doyle, and it revolved around opening the Doyle Clinic. Melody's involved with that, and they've had a change in management there, and it was very well attended. But we need to pursue that in any way, shape, or form, Richard, that we can to help get that clinic open. And I don't know what it's going to take, but the new gal, she's on her game. Melody, you might say something about that lady, but I'm hoping we get that thing open. We desperately need that clinic open. And I'm kind of directing this at Melody because she sits on that board, so please, let's get that thing going. I was impressed with her. Totally impressed. She left that meeting very, very well received.
Yeah, she's gonna be good for the clinic.
Oh, man, in the community. Hold on to her for a while.
Good?
That's it.
Okay. Violet has a Christmas poem she would like me to read, so I will work through it here. Christmas minus. As I walk through the streets tonight, I see colored lights on a Christmas tree. Block after block, tree after tree, my childhood comes back to me. When candles lit the Christmas tree and oranges brought us ecstasy, but these are days of long ago and folks are gone I used to know. The neighbors came from miles around to share their warmth in our small town. And old and young expressed their views of hopes and dreams and shared the news. Few cars could make it through the snow, as horseback was the way to go. Some had buggies and some had sleds, but that was in the good old days. I see the people hurry by, hearing children both laugh and cry. The people pass me unaware, Christmas minus love and care. Violet Stella. Okay, we'll go with that. That we will go on to information consent calendar. Any items you wish to take off for special consideration?
T5.
T5. Any others? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the remainder of the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Ayes have it. We'll go to G5. Yes?
I just had a question on that deal. How was that determined, or why wasn't that determined prior to
Basically, that payment came about by an audit done by the Board of Equalization. They determined that the service was not a service, but a sale of a product that needed to be sales tax to be charged on it.
So, did we use the product?
Yeah, it was gravel.
Yeah.
but it was our own gravel?
Yeah, but
So
for
we have to
whatever
pay
reason, the Board of
sales
Equalization
tax?
has determined that since we paid for it by the pound or the ton,
Right,
that
it's weighed.
it is taxable. And
So if we hadn't weighed it, we wouldn't have had to pay it?
if we had just paid for the service and not paid it by the ton, we probably would not have had to pay it.
Yeah. We just paid to have it hauled or something.
Oh. Okay.
That was the question.
Yeah.
Has this ever been experienced before?
No.
Is this the first time we've used this method to acquire aggregate?
It's the first time that an audit has.
They've been doing that for years, haven't they?
I'm not aware.
It might behoove you to look at restructuring your future contracts to preclude getting tax-free home material. I think that's pretty hard.
Yeah, we're buying our own stuff.
Nice.
We have a motion to approve G5.
Where's the money going to come from?
Road?
Road fund.
Okay, any more questions on G5? We have a motion to approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
G5.
Well, second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Ayes have it. We'll go to H1.
Mr. Chairman, in your packet, you've got two memorandums of understanding between two bargaining groups. The first being Lassen County Peace Officers Supervisors Association, and the second being memorandum of understanding with the Peace Officers Management Association. As the board knows, we participated in mediation with those two bargaining groups last week and reached a agreed upon settlement, which we're presenting to the board for approval today. Generally consistent with the board direction to maintain the same level of compensation increases amongst bargaining units. The detail is included in the packet. If I could direct your attention to page number 6. The salary and related matters includes the salary increases that have been negotiated. They include 2.5% salary increase upon adoption, 2% July 1st, 2016, 3% July 1, 2017. The agreement also includes, and if I could direct your attention to Article 6.04 on page 7. Let me make sure I have it. I'm sorry, just above that. Effective the first pay period following July 18, employees shall be eligible for a 6th salary step, which would be a 5% increase in accordance with the county personnel policy. In addition to that, there is an increase in the flexible benefits. I'm going to direct you to that as soon as I find it here. Oh, okay, health insurance. So on page 17, effective the first full pay period following MOU adoption, the flex plan contribution shall be increased to a total of $382 monthly. Effective the first full pay period following July 1st, 16, it shall be increased again to $482 monthly. And effective the first full pay period beginning in December 17, the amount shall be increased to $532. So those are the pertinent sections the sections of the MOU that were in dispute and were resolved with the mediation. So it's my recommendation that the board approve the memoranda of understanding between both units. Sorry. Between both bargaining units as separate action. I apologize.
Speaking of that, on page 17 at the bottom of the page under 12.01 under retirement plan, I think I'm looking at the peace officers management, so that's the two captains and the undersheriff.
That are part of that unit, yes, sir.
Okay, so there's only 3 in there right now.
Yeah. Right, there's 3.
But we have in here retirement plan. County agrees to maintain its contractual arrangement with PERS to provide retirement benefits, safety, 3% at 50, single highest year. It has the 4 other additional ones. Now, obviously, the people we have there now are senior people who are under the 3% at 50, but in time, and I mean possibly even in the time frame of this contract, it's possible that you may have new people who come in there who aren't necessarily 3% at 50. So how do we reflect?
Okay, on
we aren't going to be giving people who are in these slots automatic 3% at 50 if they're not eligible.
On page 18, under number 6, it references employees hired after June 11, 2012, which will be covered by the 3.
That's what I was looking for. It just didn't stand out when I read this here.
We could have made that as a
Yeah, it might have been better, but as long as it's something in there that reflects the change that took place with state law. Okay. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Question. None?
I just have a quick question. Is this the last of the bargaining units?
This represents, yes, the last 2 bargaining units that we've been negotiating with over the last year.
Are there any other outstanding?
There's IHSS is a separate bargaining unit which historically has been dealt with, is separate from the other general county units. It's yet to be resolved. But the other units have been settled for 3 years.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, with the pleasure of the board. I'll entertain a motion separate for each bargaining unit. If you think.
I'll make the motion to approve the MOU between the county and Lassen County Peace Officer Management Association. Is it 2 different motions?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let's do a two-minute motion.
That was one.
Okay.
So let's vote on that motion. Is there a second to that motion?
We'll second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you poll the board?
Supervisor Chapman?
Aye.
Supervisor Hemphill?
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyle?
Aye. Okay, now the next one.
That is the Peace Officers Supervisors Association.
I would move the adoption of the MOU with the Peace Officers Association.
You have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you poll the board?
Supervisor Chapman?
Aye.
Supervisor Hemphill?
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyle?
All right. Thank you, guys. Good. Thank you guys in back there. Cooperation and working through these issues. Okay. We move to H2, Public Works. Who's here to speak on that?
Well, Larry's not here, but I guess Tony and I can address that.
We're going to pin this on Tony?
Yeah, we'll blame it on Tony if it goes bad.
Thanks.
So this is the architectural engineering consultant selection for the courthouse square modernization project, and the board has directed that we investigate and move forward in some space planning and changes. This will facilitate a part of that. We did an RFP for services to provide those architectural needs. After receiving those, we've convened a committee of individuals to evaluate those, including Supervisor Chapman, myself, Mr. Shaw, Treasurer Tax Collector Nancy Cardenas, Public Works Director Larry Millar, and Deputy Director Pete Heimbigner. We reviewed the proposals, which they're fairly voluminous. That's why they're not all included in the packet. I know Supervisor Chapman has a copy, and Supervisor Hemphill, and some of the rest of you have reviewed at least parts of them, and they're available for anyone to review, but they're kind of voluminous, so you might want to do so in the office. It was the consensus of the group to recommend that the county authorize myself to negotiate with Lionicus regarding an agreement to complete those architectural and engineering services for a contract that we brought back to this board for final approval.
Hey, questions for Richard? Any questions from the public? Mrs. Spencer?
To my knowledge, there hasn't been a public outcry for a new boardroom. In fact, the only time you fill this up is when you screw up. Supervisor Chapman has tried 3 times in the past 3 years to get his new boardroom. What we have seen now is an obsession by an elected officer. There hasn't even been an outcry from you guys to get a new boardroom. It just seems to come from one person. Chapman's September 22nd attempt was a backroom, under the table, sleazy, unethical action on his part. He took advantage of the naivety of new supervisors, lack of knowledge, and in some cases, lack of courage to stand up to him. Mr. Powell, you knew better, and you did not stop this. The last 3 years' tenure of this board has shown such contempt and disrespect for ethics and law. We are filing a Brown Act against this action. Can We Help has recently discovered that action was taken on a non-agendized RFP on September 22nd, 2015. The audio of Agenda H1, titled Project Schedules, discussions, clearly indicate that the RFP was never discussed. Regardless, this board released a request for proposal for the courthouse square modernization project. An ad was immediately